My name is Emily Hawkins, and I am a fractional COO, and I'm so excited to share a soulful self-care conversation today.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Sharenza, and welcome to an episode of Soulful Self-Care Conversations with myself, your host, Pearl Sharenza with Women's Successful Living. And today I have the pleasure of introducing our guest, Emily Hawkins. She is the creator of LeaderShift, which her mission is helping small business owners stop drowning in complexity and start building profitable, sustainable businesses that they love. Through her proven approach, small business owners learn to simplify their operations, maximize their profits, and rediscover the joy of running their businesses. After 15 years saving corporate giants millions, Emily now brings those same powerful strategies to small businesses, having guided hundreds of small businesses owners to keep more money in their pockets through surprisingly simple solutions. Her innovative approach, combining her MBA, supply chain expertise, and life coaching certification, was featured in Forbes in 2020. Emily's message is refreshing, simple. You don't need fancy degrees or technical expertise to transform your small business. Just curiosity and willingness to try something new. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me, Pearl.
Oh, you're welcome. I love that. As a small business owner, myself, having those thoughts and keeping that mindset of, we don't have to make it crazy and we can keep it simple. Just recently, I've been doing like an audit of what am I doing? Where am all my money? What pockets am I in? And, I'm over here depositing time and energy here and over here. And I'm like, I need everything in one spot. So I really like this last quarter, like 12 weeks, been honing in on how do I save money? How do I streamline it? And where can I put it all in one spot? And I actually am in the middle of onboarding that process right now with a new company that I was introduced to through my business coach. And it's like, I'm already like, they're telling me, they're like, you're like our expert, our expert student right now. I'm like, hey, I'm all in. If I say I'm going, I want to get it done. I'm like, the first of the year is around the corner. Let's get this stuff done. So I love we're going to have topics and discussion on this today. And also that we're going to be talking about truly like, part of that for me is what brings me joy. And that's my business and empowering others. And if I'm spending all this time and like all this tech stuff and setups and everything, I can't do what I love. And so I'm excited. We're going to talk about truly how do we discover what brings us that joy. And so I'm excited to have you on today, Emily. So welcome to the show.
I love, by the way, that you were going through all of this because I think that not enough businesses need to take a moment, a breath, if you will, and remember why we got into all of this, right? Because I don't know about you, it wasn't to set up a website and it wasn't to run tech in the background and it wasn't payroll and invoicing and all these other things that we end up having to do if we don't have the right systems and processes in place. And then all of a sudden we lose our joy. So I feel like one of the things that I do on a regular basis is help business owners find that joy again by uncovering, wait, why did you get into this in the first place? What was the original plan? Because for me, it was definitely not invoicing and payroll.
Yeah, definitely not for me either. That's for sure. I mean, I was on a journey of like people pleasing for everybody and everything but myself. And so as I started this journey of overcoming people pleasing, I started realizing that I wasn't alone. I'm not the only female. I mean, I know there's men that are people pleasers as well, but most of the time and what my research and my, trying to question and marketing it was how many women are suffering with this. And we all do it so often in some way or another. And some of us to the extreme, like myself. And so to come on this journey of like, I don't want to do that, really like I had to step back with my business and be like, where am I, I'm not taking care of me and I'm not spending the time with my clients the way I want to because I'm so distracted by all this noise, and I needed to streamline it. So, and October is usually when I do it. I was talking with somebody earlier on an episode about how I vision, I do my vision and my goal setting like October timeframe, but I'm in Florida. So I had just come back from my retreat, was getting ready to do that. And my son got married, but the week before he got married, we we had a hurricane, and he got married, and we had another hurricane. So like life got disruptive. And so like right after Thanksgiving, I'm like, I need to get this stuff done. I need to be focused on this because I want to hit January really hard and running. And so I was like, I start working on this. So that's why I really was like, okay. And I feel good about it. I've
Mhm.
even like boundaries, like my people pleaser. I have a family member that's been here since July that we've been kind of helping and guiding her in some recovery stuff that she's doing herself. And she's not been, true hold to it. So it's taking up time. So
Mhm.
she's come full circle having to approach it again. And I'm like, okay, you and those that are helping you only get my time on every day. I tell them I'm available today. I'm not available today. Right. I let them know because I am the
Mhm.
only person that's nearby her. And so somebody's like, how do you do that? I go, you just make the decision to do it. You just have to do it because it distracts
Mhm.
you from all the other stuff that you want to accomplish. So it's really important for me to always be on top of that. But before we get deeper into like discovering and talking about our joy and balancing our business and finding harmony with our life, I want to ask you a question I always ask my guests. I love when I coach my clients, we coach on that inner child, that like what was our little girl inside of us being told when we were younger. But I like to do it with my podcast a little bit different. And that is thinking about when you were growing up as that little girl, we always get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. So how does the what you want to be when you grow up? Like for me, I wanted to be a teacher, and here I am today. I am teaching and empowering. But back then I thought I wanted to be an elementary teacher, but it still is kind of correlating together, that whole teaching and empowering. But when you think about the little Emily when she was growing up, what was it that when they were asked the question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What was that? And how does it correlate to what you're doing today?
So I love this because I actually have a story for this. So when I was around 4 or 5 years old, my mom started traveling. She was a vice president of a nursing home chain. She was over rehab services for a national nursing home chain. And go my mom, by the way. She's just such an amazing human being. I think about all the glass ceilings that she shattered. She was living her dream. But as her child, I didn't get enough of her. I wanted more of her. And so when I was really little, I remember my mom's putting me to bed one night and I said, when I grow up, I'm not having a job. I'm not getting a job. And my mom was like, well, okay, then that means you have to marry somebody that has a job so that they can support you. And she said that I burst into tears and I said, I don't want a job. Why would my husband want one? And what's really funny about this is there's a full circle moment in that story because hearing it as an adult, I see the funny in it. But being the person who said it, what I realize now is I didn't want the job that she had. I wanted a better balance. I wanted a family and a job, where I was helping people because I would go to conferences with her and people would tell me my mother was one of the most amazing people that had ever met them. And she was so supportive and she had helped them move up in the business and like all of these things. And I was like, "Ugh, I just feel like I miss that version of her. And I never wanted my children to miss that version of me. And it's funny, again, like I said, full circle moment. I left the corporate world about almost 8 years ago at this point. And it was because I was becoming my mother. I was living that corporate life, but instead of it being nationally, I was traveling internationally and I was standing up supply chains all over the world. Such an amazing opportunity, but my kids were becoming pictures in a frame. And I was losing the exact thing. It's like I lost that childhood part of me, right? It was like, remember, Emily, we said we would never do this. And I left the corporate world in 2017 and I am living that dream. I am living what that 4-year-old said, pretty much exactly how I envisioned it when there was no vision. There was no internet when I was that age. There was nothing like that. And it's interesting because my husband also is a very balanced person and works from home periodically. He's in sales. And so we do not live the life that my parents lived. And I'm so happy about that. Like, I'm like, Emily, 4-year-old Emily, you are brilliant. So smart.
I love that. There's so much there to unpack. I love that, you started down that path and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, I remember saying as a little girl, I don't want that. And like you stopped it, you changed, you pivoted and you fixed that in your life. And how old are your kids, Emily?
When I left the corporate world, they were 5 and 2 years old. They are now 12 and 9.
Yeah.
And my daughter said to me, this was about a year ago. We were driving somewhere and she was telling me about a friend of hers and how sad she felt for this friend because her mom was never there. And she said, Mom, you're just always there.
Oh,
And I was like, don't cry, don't cry. Cause it was like, this is it. This is the reason
yeah.
that right there, you saying I'm always there is just,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I wanted.
It's
And on top of it, being able to help other businesses and watch these small businesses that are so worried about that balance, helping them find that balance so that they can be at their kids' Christmas, lunch or, a Thanksgiving thing that they're doing and make money in their business and serve their community. I work with a lot of blue collar businesses. So roofers, floor and tile, car dealerships, auto mechanics, people that some of us kind of forget about. We forget that these people have families and they need a balance as well. And they can benefit from automation more than probably most of us realize. And so I've really enjoyed giving those clients of mine their life back. It's just been so fun.
it's so powerful because like we were talking about, how you discover what brings you joy and that personal exploration that we're talking about today. And it's so true because like right now, here I am in Florida, we've had these 2 hurricanes, we've had devastation, all around us. And I have, in my network group, we have a company that I'm watching them like they didn't end up coming to our Christmas party because they were just overwhelmed, so much work. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like, you're right. They have to find balance. They have to have that, and you got people on the other line going, I need you now. And we understand like that need, like you don't have a roof on your house right now. You've got, open walls in your home right now. But it's like, sometimes you need to step back and be like, that person on the other side also has stuff that they're dealing with from the hurricane too. And they're trying to provide for their family while they're providing for their clients and also trying to find that balance. And it's a hard target to hit sometimes without having, somebody like you to kind of guide them along and, help them kind of hold their hand and let them see that it's important because like you said, like when you talked about, your daughter saying that, it reminded me about why we moved from Virginia to Florida. We left Virginia because coming here was going to give me the opportunity to be home and stay home with the kids. And, while I did that, I still started my own business. And, I found a couple of jobs I was doing from home, virtually before we even went virtual before pandemic. And it was great because I could go do PTAs. I could go do those things that let me be involved with what my kids had going on at that time. And then as I got older, I could add, I started seeing that I was doing so much people pleasing by being at these things that I held titles for that I wasn't having fun doing it because I grew up, in high school, I grew up with, some kids that had more in life than what I had from my family. So, and then there was a lot of, drama and I was just like, I don't do drama. And so it's like, I just did not want to do PTA stuff anymore because it became too much drama in my life. But I stepped back from that, but I lost who I was because I became all these titles. And as I started finding out who I was and started realizing I needed to stop people pleasing and really work on that, I started finding more balance and that harmony in my life. And so, 2 years ago, when we unfortunately lost our oldest son in a tragic car accident, I was able to have the last memory I have of him. It was 2 days before he passed, where he was here at our house because him and my husband own a business together. And they were working in the garage. And people have heard me share the story before on the show, but he's like, Mom, can you throw me a bottle of water? And I tossed the bottle of water. But the cool thing was, it's really important we understand what our kids see, like what your daughter said to you, because of the fact that he said to me, wow, Mom, not only have you figured out who the heck you are, but you can throw a bottle now. Because I could never throw a football to him, right? So I have that beautiful memory to go, hey, and it reminds me that I have to, there's a day before your child passes, is the day after. It's a club I don't want anybody to join me in. But I have to keep reminding myself that I have to continue living, because I've got my younger son, Nate. I got my husband. I got my business. I've got my clients and I got me that has to, find joy in life. And so that's why I continue to do that, thinking that I know he's watching me from above. I can't disappoint, right? I gotta keep being who I want to be and true to me. And so I love that your daughter, like, and that you've done that. Like you said, what you said to your mom, you're now living. I think it's so powerful. And it does go back to like having that personal balance, like finding that personal balance so that we can find that joy in our life because, some of the clients that I work with, they work for corporations like what you left. And it's like, I'll say to them often, like, we do this thing called what's your joy list? And I'll say, okay, are you working on your joy list? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, let me explain to you something. Your corporate world, something, God forbid, happens to you and you're not here tomorrow, they're going to slide somebody in that seat. They're going to miss you for a day. Let's just give them a day. But for the most part, they're going to be like, who are we putting in next? But your family, your friends, they can't do that. They can't put somebody else in that spot. Yeah, they'll figure out how to maintain their house. They'll figure out how to do their laundry, figure out how to make meals, but they're not going to figure out how to go on to life without missing you. And so I'm always like, what are we going to do to start finding that balance and putting more harmony in your life? Because it's so important. So tell us, the listeners and those that are watching us, what are some of the struggles that you see as business owners, like that and I'm going to put myself in there too, that we miss the mark on, or that we think, oh, we've got it, but really we need to spend more time in a certain area. What areas would you say that some of those might be?
So I'm just going to start with something that's a little bit jarring that I think will help people understand the damage that they're causing right now. You are robbing your team of joy. And why I say that is because as a business owner, it's so easy to say, I'll do it. I got it. I'll do it. This will take me 5 minutes. Yes. But I would say, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase death by 1,000 paper cuts. Well, as you own a business, it's death by 5 minutes because all of those 5 minutes add up. Oh, I can do this in 10 minutes. Oh, I can do this in 5 minutes. Sure, you can. But what you're doing is you're robbing your team of joy when you do that. And it's the joy of purpose because every single person was put on this earth for a purpose. And I think everybody's purpose is different. And I think we all fit together like a giant puzzle piece. And when we're all connected properly, there's balance, there's harmony, there's happiness, there's joy, there's all of these things. But if you as the business owner are like, no, I'm going to hire you as an expensive paperweight and I'll just do all the things, that is robbing someone of their purpose. And I know from you talking that you get it. When you serve, it fulfills you in a way that nothing else can. And when you are not utilizing your team, you are not allowing them to feel that. You are not allowing them to say, oh, I got done with that big project today and it was so great. And I'm so proud of the effort and work that I put into that. You are robbing them of that. And so what I see from business owners, and it goes back to that people pleasing, right? I love that you keep bringing this up because we think by not giving people work that they're going to like us more, be happier, less stressed. I'm here to tell you that when your team has less to do, that something happens. It happens to all of us, by the way, but I just want to use your team as an example. If you have little to do, you start to self-cannibalize. And what I mean by that is you have nothing to do. Your brain needs something to chew on. If you have given it nothing to chew on, it will chew on you. Oh, you're overweight. You should probably be taking better care of yourself. I'm not as smart as Sarah. I should have done this. I should be at different goals. You start eating away at yourself. And it's because that brain power needs to latch on to purpose. It needs to latch on to, maybe you love spreadsheets. Maybe you love data analytics. Maybe you love the payroll that you and I are not fans of doing. Maybe you love integrating systems. That's something I enjoy doing. Maybe you love customer service and that is your joy. But because your owner is like, I'll just do it, you are self-cannibalizing. So I would say that is the thing that most business owners struggle with the most. And I will tell you why. I will tell you why this is happening, by the way. So comfort is a beautiful thing until it's not. I want to use the example of a comfort, like a blanket, like when we were kids, like a security blanket, right? Why is it called that? Because it made us feel safe. If you take that security blanket and you put it over your head long enough and hard enough, you will suffocate. You will not be here anymore. So tasks in a business can be that for a business owner. It's familiar, it's safe, it's sameness. And we thrive on that a little bit when we're, in seasonality and the market shifts and our business did something and somebody put a Google review out there that's not even true, but it's out there and it looks so bad and it just eats at us. And so our security is, I'll do the payroll. I'll do the 5-minute task because it's my security blanket. But you've got to let go of it. And that's the hardest thing with business owners is we talk about it. One of the first tasks we do, we walk through their customer journey. We lay out what's actually happening in the customer journey. What are the actions? Then we lay out who should be doing this. What are the roles in the business that should be happening? And then we lay out what are the systems that you're using. And then the final layer is the communication that's happening, that's weaving it all together. And what I find most fascinating is that when I go through this, the business owner is pissed. They're always pissed at one point. It's different with everyone, but there's a point where they're mad because Carol isn't doing what she's supposed to be doing. Because Carol was never trained. Because you have been covering for Carol because this is the death by 5 minutes, right? And so we build things and we start there. But then they start to get nervous and they're like, wait, if Carol's doing that and Phil's doing this and Sarah's doing that, what am I going to be doing? And I'm like, you're going to lead. You're going to actually be the person running the ship. And I would say you're not even steering the ship. You're in the crow's nest and you're looking out and you're saying, here's where we're going. And here's what I see. Hey, down there, I want you to drive the boat this way. I want this to happen and all of these things. You're going to go where nobody's been. But you've been there before because you own this business and you started it. And it's just that you got real uncomfortable. So you hunkered down like there was some, war going on or some giant storm, when in reality, you just got nervous about how fast this is growing. A lot of the businesses I work with have so much referral that really they need to be scaling their teams and they need to be scaling what they're doing and they need to do it in the next 6 months. And they will never admit it until a few sessions in that it scares them because they're out of their depth, because they're really good at serving, but they don't think they're right for leadership. And actually they're perfect for leadership. And I love that they're as humble as they are because I can teach you how to lead. And so that's typically the joy that they're robbing their team, which in turn ends up robbing it from themselves because they're not spending time with their family and they're not utilizing their resources. And they're like, I'll just do everything. And I mean, martyrdom, what does it do? It kills us. And I don't think that that's a great legacy to leave. In fact, you've literally left nothing for anyone to carry on because you've been doing it all. So your legacy stops with you. And that's the exact opposite of what we really want to do in this world.
Oh my gosh, there's so much cool stuff there. It's so true. I mean, I wrote down like robbing your team of joy. Like, that's so powerful because I remember when I worked in the corporate world in Virginia, I worked for a telecom company. I was in mortgages and there's a little downturn. And, my boss, if I got to call him Jim, but I still call him my boss. He was just here at my son's wedding. He goes, stop introducing me as your boss, dude. You're self-employed. I'm like, I know, but you're like this. So I call him my mentor. But anyway, so I remember when I left at one point, it's like, why are you leaving? I'm like, well, because, later on I said, I thought you were going to have to fire me. He goes, I wasn't going to fire you. I go, I know, but I was trying to save you. But there you go. We tell ourselves these things. But I went,
Yeah.
it still was a great experience. I went to to this telecom company, and it was before, I'm going to really age myself, Emily. It's before we had all this great internet stuff, and we had to hand enter payments for your long distance. And that's when you still had
Oh,
long distance bills, right? And so they had
wow.
to be entered in by the end of the month, because the statement was coming out in the first. And we had to wear, this is when we still had to wear suits to work. So we were all dressed up into the nine. We were salaried. So even though we were salaried, we were committed to staying late to posting these payments. And I remember going, I have to motivate these guys in my department to want to stay late, to put these 12-hour days in and to still do the work and not tell me I'm sick or I'm going to go home, because if they leave, I have to do the work. So it's like, what can I do? And, this is back before I started doing anything what I do today with mindset or anything. But I think it's also part of the people pleaser in me. And also I like to have a good party and have fun doing what I'm doing. And so at one point I was like, okay, I need to make sure that they're in a good mindset. So we had 6 of us, and I would break us up. I'd break them up in like teams of 2. And I was like, we would have, we'd have our lunch. We'd have like one break, and I would make them take an afternoon break. And I was like, okay, you're going to go walk outside. If it's nice outside and we're not in the middle of a snowstorm, I want you to put a jacket on. I want you to go walk outside so you get that fresh air. If not, I want you to walk on a different floor away from anybody. I don't want you to be near anything at work. So go down to the first floor where cafeteria is, walk, sit down and have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, but take 15 minutes out of the day. And I would have other departments come over to me going, my staff is mad because you're letting your staff go. And I looked at them, I go, okay, so your staff leaves at 5:00. If your staff wants to come join us over here and stay the rest of the night, and you're okay with it because their salary, they're not going to get overtime, tell them to come on over. I'll give them a break at 5:00 before they come over to my department. That's not a problem for me. They look at me. I'm not giving them up. I go, okay. So, unless you're staying with me, I don't want to hear it. It's like, and for me, that's made them more productive. I wasn't having to do, I mean, I think that's why I learned that so early on. I wasn't having to do the work. But you're right. Like when I talk and I coach my clients, some of them are business owners and the personal development side, and some are corporate worker employees. I'm like, you've got to stop trying to do everything. You have to empower. Like what you said, you can't lift them up. Sure, I'll sit there, like you said, I'm going to cannibalize myself because I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs. What am I going to do? I'm not valuable. They don't like me here. Like all those thoughts are going to go through my head. They don't think I can do the work. But if
Mhm.
you let me do the work and let them do the work, and you empower them and or teach them something new that,
Mhm.
hey, I need to get this off my desk, and Mary Jane could do it, I think, really well with my guidance. You might find out she does it even better than what you could do it. And she might, especially customer service. That was always my thing. If somebody struggle with customer service, like, let me do that. I like to make the experience fun. I like to make the experience like, even though you may give me a bad review, I'm going to turn it into something fun for you, So I think it's a lot to say about how we become really good leaders. Like you were saying too, how sometimes I know that sometimes as, even myself as a soulpreneur I have this retreat I do every year. I have my ambassadors. I always find ways to uplift my ambassadors because I want them to show up at the retreat. I want them to be happy. I want them to enjoy the retreat. So I'm always interested in their feedback and being open to what they're sharing. But, I want them to enjoy the role that they've signed up for. I want them to, have that great communication with me and the retreat attendees. And so having this, like you said, I don't want to suffocate in tasks because I know what I love to do, but there's some things I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that, and where my ambassadors came from was a friend of mine had attended my retreat as one of my speakers. And before COVID, I used to do it where you slept with somebody, you par up in beds with somebody you didn't know. And so if the speakers, we always had a separate place in the house, but we changed that. Now we're all together. But she's like, come here, you're going to go spend the night with me tonight in my room. I'm like, okay, what are we doing, Pam? And she's listening. Hello, Pam. She's like, hey, you got to stop trying to be the hostess, the leader, and everything else. Like I was cooking, cleaning. She's like, you got to stop that. You need ambassadors. And so that's because of Pam. That's where my ambassadors came from. But had I been anybody other than wanting to listen, I might have fought her on that. But now I've gone from having like 10 attendees at my retreat to having 25 attendees at my retreat because I listen and accepted feedback, and that's, I agree. Like what you said, I think that's important because that's part of like, discovering what brings you joy. Cause I love doing my retreats. I don't like to cook. I mean, I'll cook at the holidays. That's about it. But, so I think like what you pointed out, it's like definitely is something to, especially the part I wrote, I highlighted, am I chewing on me? Why am I chewing on myself? I wrote that down. So that's really powerful, powerful stuff there. So when you're working you've helped them, help the client, help the business owner start seeing that they can be great leaders and they get these aha moments, like you said, because it's interesting to watch, like, even for me, when I do the personal development coaching and I work with my clients and they're like, oh, self-care isn't selfish. I can go get a mani-pedi with my kids or one of my staff members and have, have a good time and still feel like I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, you can sit down and watch Barney with your kids and that's self-care. You're doing something
Mhm.
other than scrolling on your phone in front of your kid. And so
Right.
so when you help them start, they go on this journey, what are some of the things that, like, what's some of the feedback you hear back later as they go through this journey with you and you're doing this audit with them and helping them to see, where they were robbing their team of joy? What's some of the things that come back, and what are some of the things you see that have changed in, like, their business and or themselves?
So one of the things that we talk about is how much their time is worth. So that's another big one, because it's very easy, by the way, to get caught up in, well, I know I should be giving Carol all the things and I should be giving so and so. Like, I think our society is really good at telling us what we should be doing. And so me saying what you should be doing or whatever is, really just another voice. But usually when I look at a business, and I work with a lot of like $3 million a year businesses. And again, this is the gross revenue. I want to be very, very clear, the gross revenue of the business. The way I look at it as the owner is the person that's responsible for that. And so I tell them, I'm like, all right, that is how much you make. And I realize it's not what you make W-2 or as an owner draw or anything like that, but that's what you are in charge of bringing into the business. So let's make that your hourly rate. So not the 3 million, but when you divide it by people work roughly 2,000 hours a year, that's an hourly rate of about $1,500. And so we start saying, you doing answering the phones, is that worth $1,500? Oh, yeah, no, that's not worth $1,500. And so that helps them understand the weight of the decisions they should be making. Because at $1,500 an hour, you better be doing strategy. You're doing something that's going to bring money into the business. You're meeting with people. You're, like, to your point, you're doing these networking events. You're, a lot of mine work with homeowners associations and things like that. That is exactly what you should be doing for $1,500 an hour, not your payroll, when there are a million companies that would do it a heck of a lot cheaper than that. So that helps them understand that. And usually that's what switches it with them, is like, oh, okay, now I understand that. And one of my favorite clients, the reason I say favorite is because he does what we talk about, right? He's a great, like, I'm going to go do it. He might not agree with what I'm saying, but he's like, you told me to do it, so I did it. So the feedback that I get from him is always like pretty real time. And this year he has golfed more. He has gone on more trips with just he and his wife. They've had date nights. These things did not occur to him before because he was so mired in work. And his wife found out that we were working together, got my information and started messaging me. And she's like, I don't know what he's telling you, but I need more of him. And I'm like, I knew it. And we're going to get there. And so all of a sudden they're spending more time together and his business is making more money. So that feels counterintuitive, but it's amazing when you hand off the tasks to the right people, you empower them to do that work, and you get time away. It strengthens your marriage and all the other relationships there, and back to that self-care. And then he's like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I love golfing. So he has gotten together with a group of guys that he, in his community. And so every Tuesday they golf because they can. And it just makes me so happy. I'm like, exactly.
That's so powerful. And it's so true. Like, I love that you talk about the hourly rate. That's one of the first things my business coach taught me too, was like, what are you worth? And then I start looking at tasks and going, is that task really worth my time? And that's where, one of my, actually my realtor friend, who's actually our realtor, her daughter's in college and she's like, I need some part-time work. I'm like, hey, can you do this part? Like she manages my podcast and sending out the stuff. I'm like, I can do that. So she's doing that. And like, we just literally planned out, like normally, like I was saying, October, I start planning my next year stuff. And so I was like, just before Thanksgiving, I was like, I got to start honing in on what my vision is for next year. And I came up with my goal and everything. And I literally did my entire year's worth of social media postings. And I said, put it in a spreadsheet to her. And and then I went and used, some of the resources to say, what kind of pictures should she have with these? And I sent her all of that. And I said, here's a spreadsheet. And here's what I want to do a check and balance. So, so every Friday, send me this because on Fridays I'll review it. And then that way we'll always be about a month ahead if we keep doing that. So she's like doing all of that where I would have been spending the time making the post, doing like she's now taking that on too for me. So it frees me up to do more the focus on my podcast. Like my goal for my podcast is to have the entire year recorded by April 18th of next year. So then, so then I won't have to start doing recording. So like October of next year, so I'll have that summer to do other things and stuff like that. And I love that, that example you gave where you worked with this client when we listen and we apply the things that we are hiring people like yourself to do, it becomes so valuable. And people, a lot of people don't see the value in a business coach and a life coach like myself because they think, oh, I've got it. But once they are open to seeing that, you say, like I often tell people, they'll tell me, I can't afford it. I'm like, how many times are you going to Starbucks a week? Like, tell me that, let's add that up, and they'll challenge me. I'm like, okay, let me give you, especially when I used to just health and wellness coaching, and they tell me I can't afford a program. I'm like, okay. And I do it now. I'm like, let me give you this envelope. Every receipt you spend on anything, whether it's going through a drive-through, Starbucks, or something that you really don't need that could have been at home, put that receipt in the envelope. And in 3 months or 2 months, call me. And we add it up and I'm like, okay, that money you just spent there in 2 months, we can do this. I don't have them look backwards because you don't want to regret, but in 2 months upcoming, if you put that aside, here's where you can go from here to here. And it's so powerful because sometimes we have to see it, and we have to, in order to believe it. And I love that that's what you're doing. And I think it's cool that, spouses, I love spouses calling me. I work with mostly women and I always tell them, it was so funny. I have one, and hi, Richard, I'll yell out to him right now, but I have one that he'll call me for his beautiful wife, Anne Marie. He'll like, okay, I know she's hearing it from me, but I think she'll hear it better from you. He'll call me. And it's just powerful. I'm glad to be that coach in the pocket for somebody, especially for relationships, and it's so fun. So when I work with somebody, just recently I was working with somebody and she was sitting in her living room and she had me on Zoom and her husband could hear us talking and she starts laughing. I go, what's so funny? She says, I have to show you something. She turns her computer around. Her husband's standing there like, hello, I've been telling you this. I was like, okay, I got you, so it's really important that we have people like you, Emily, especially as a business owner that can help us, see the forest in the trees, because sometimes we get so stuck in that, that 5 minute, I can do it, that it eats up our own joy as well as those that we have around us that, we can uplift and pour joy into them. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what are some of the things that when you work with clients, I know you gave me a little presentation. I shared it with my network group, which is a lot of fun. They could see some of the tasks that they spend the money on. But when you like the going, being able to go golfing and spending time with spouse, what are some of the things that that maybe the person who is just starting out like me might be that soulpreneur that's just kind of starting out going, okay, I need to bring in staff. How do I find that right person? What are some of the things like somebody like that maybe wants to hire one person to start out with? How can you, one, A, make them feel comfortable about it? And B, what would you say are some of the things they should think about when they're bringing somebody on?
100%. I love this question. So one thing I recommend, if this is your first person that you're hiring, if this is your 100th person, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to get really quiet. I want you to spend 15 minutes in silence, maybe making some notes for yourself, but I don't want you near a computer. I don't want you near anything. I want you in silence. And what I want you to do is write down a dream employee list. And if you want that person to do your laundry, write that down. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, I want this list to be as crystal clear as possible. And I will tell you why I want you to do this. When I was in the corporate world, when I started leading people, I was not leading them. I was managing them. I was terrible. I was basically the worst boss you can imagine. I went one end of the spectrum. I want to be everybody's friend. That didn't work. So I went the other way of micromanaging. Also a bad strategy, by the way, did not work. So I was like, just people were coming in and out of my organization. It was like my office had a revolving door in it. So one day, in a fit of like frustration, I said what all of us say when we are managing in either direction like that. Good help is hard to find. I wish I could find better people. And so I sat down at my computer and I was like, I'm going to write out a list and I'm going to write out the dream employee. So I open up this Word document and I start typing, they will never be late. They will never ask to leave early. And then I was like, okay, wait. A dream employee would not be a list of nevers and nots. A dream employee would be what I want them to do. So I delete everything out and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be harder than I thought. So then I was like, all right, what do I want? What kind of conversations do I want us to have? When I interact with them, I want to be excited, And so I just started writing down things they would say to me, things we would be working on, how they would push me as a leader, how we would get more done faster. And I ended up with 2 pages and I was like, oh, this is so good. For about 2 seconds, I was really excited. And then I realized, if this person shows up, am I the right person to lead them? And I will tell you the answer to that was no. And I realized that. And that's when I shifted a lot of the things that I did. And it's actually what I teach my clients. But where I'm going with this is, most of us, this is what we do. There's a lot of stuff in my business I don't want to do. I need to hire someone. I'll hire a VA, a virtual assistant, because that's like low hanging fruit. I can get a contractor. Well, how would I do that? So you Google it, or you go on ChatGPT and you ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT comes up with this pithy sort of thing that looks real official, right? Or you go on Google and you copy somebody else's job description that, again, looks really official, and you put that out there and you interview somebody based on how similar they are to you. Oh, I really like this person. I would hang out with this person. So you hire them. And then for the next 6 months to 5 years, you are angry every day. And the reason is because you did all that wrong. You didn't start at the beginning, which is, what do I need? Y'all, I don't need another me in my business. I need somebody that is very different than me, because they will see another angle, which will help me in a much better way. And if I have found over the years, by the way, that I still enjoy coffee with people that are not just like me. So I don't want to make that like you have to hate the people that work with you. I'm just saying it's very easy to be attracted to somebody that's so similar to you, but that's not doing your business a service. So there's that. And then also making sure that you know exactly what you want that person to be doing and how fast you want that person to be doing it. Because here's what another thing happens. Business owners say, I want to hire virtual assistant, random like manager of this or that. And they put off the hiring for too long. Then they're like, well, I don't know. I'm not going to have time to onboard them. So they put it off for longer. And then they're just drowning. And they find someone not really the right fit because they really didn't spend the time on the job description. And they hire a really expensive paperweight. And what I mean by this is, I am the business owner. I am super busy. I hired you. I need you to go figure it out because I can't spend time with you. And they really don't know anything. I don't care if you hire someone with 15 years of experience or 15 minutes of experience. They don't know your business. They need to understand how you do things. What does success look like in your business? And so I give my clients a 90-day onboarding plan. So we write job descriptions together. We write the questions that they should be asking in an interview. And then we also go through this 90-day onboarding plan that, by the way, isn't like you're sitting with them on their shoulder or something for 90 days. That would be horrible. But it's a plan that gives them structure and support while it also gives you space to continue to do your job. And when people come out of this 90 days, and it happens before the 90 days, but coming out of it, they're like, oh my God, this person is just so productive. They are helping me in ways that I never thought and all these things. And it's like, exactly, because you supported them. First of all, you got clear about what you wanted. You found people that were different than you so they can actually complement what you're doing. And then you spent the time onboarding them with a plug and play. Like, I give them exactly what to do, how to do it. It's not intense, but it gives them so much structure and accountability that they have meetings with these people. And then they realize there's two things that happen. One, they get really productive, or they are able to let this person go before 90 days because, oh, not the right fit. And that is equally as important as keeping that person and making them productive. Because at the beginning of this, I was saying, you hire someone and for the next 6 months to 6 years, they piss you off. A lot of people, back to that people pleasing, are like, well, I spent all this time and I hear this all the time. She's a really good person, or he's a really good person. Guess what, y'all? I think that 99.9% of human beings are good people. Them working in your business has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with that. You can fire someone, let someone go, and you are freeing them to live their purpose, have more passion in their lives. It has absolutely nothing to do with that being a good person. So I want us to all like divorce ourselves from that. But
I love that.
That's really something that I see regularly.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, divorce ourselves from that and it's hard sometimes, especially as a business owner, because like you said, and I love that, like taking the 15-minute silence, like to write that dream employee list. I wrote that down, like how fast, what you need them to do. I think we need to do that in so many areas of our life, but especially as business owners, we're bringing somebody on. And that was like something that I did when I was bringing on Erin. I'm like, what do I need her to do? What's the most important thing that I need to get off my lap right now to do? And that was exactly that. I used to have a radio show, but we're not doing the radio show at the end of the year because like it took too much time, not for me, because it didn't change anything I did here with my podcast, but it affected the person who's doing my editing, and he's listening right now. I know he's very thankful. It affected Erin because it's another step to do, and it just became very cumbersome. It's like, it's just not worth it. I mean, I love doing the radio show. Lori's got a great platform. It's just that right now, that's the season for me for that is changing. And it's okay to recognize those seasons change too, is how I look. That's the only way I can grow my business too, is to recognize what's working, what doesn't work, release what's not working, or give it to somebody else if it's working, that's taking up too much time. And so that's I love that. I have another part of my business that we're adding to my business, and I'm actually working out with somebody. We're kind of doing a barter thing, but at the same time, like, listen, you can actually make commission off of it if it works right. I'll let you earn commission too off of it. So it's not just a barter part for you, and it brings both of us, revenue. It's just like, well, I'm all, in for that. So I recognize that I need to be able to do things like that too. So I'm so glad that we talked. This has been so much fun. We could talk hours for this. I love that, because truly, part of these conversations are about how do we have this personal exploration? How do we do things that take care of our self-care right down to our soul? And these are things that we have to do so that we can go and do things with our spouses or our loved ones. Like you said, with your client who's golfing more and and the wife is calling going, I want more of them now. You've given me some. Now I want more. I think it's so
Exactly.
cool. So Emily, tell everybody how they can reach out to you. And we'll also put it in show notes for everybody too.
Most definitely. You can find me at Emily Hawkins, the number 4, the letter U, anywhere. So Emily Hawkins, the number 4, the letter U.com is my website. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. So all the places. And if you go to my website, I've got several freebies for you to actually walk through ways for you to better lead. All of it's absolutely free. You never have to talk to me ever, I promise. And then also things you can be working on in your business to save you money and time.
I appreciate you being with us today. And I will definitely share that. I'm excited to share this episode with my network group because I think this is something they all could learn from as well and hearing the conversation. Now, before I let you go, there is one thing, and I forgot to forewarn Emily so beforehand, but we have our Better Questions, Better Life cards. So I'm going to shuffle them. You're going to tell me when to stop, and we're going to ask you to answer what's on the card. So here we go.
Ooh,
So
fun.
tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right. So your card says, how active and creative are you?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that those two things are very related. So I'm glad it says active and creative. The other thing I would throw in there is my creativity is not only based on my activity level. I work out at least 45 minutes every day. I think that's incredibly important. If I can, I do another hour and a half walk. I wish that happened every day. But those things really fuel my creativity. And another thing that fuels my creativity is curiosity. I'm always curious about things. And the majority of creative projects and endeavors that I've been a part of have been directly related to either me being active and having some great idea while I'm exercising, working out, going on a walk, or from what if we did? What if this happened? I'm curious if we did this and this, what would happen? And then all of a sudden, this amazing creative, it just happens. So, I just think those are two incredibly huge, important pieces in my life.
I love that. That's great advice to get curious about those things. Those are great questions. So I hope our listeners wrote that down. If not, go back and listen and rewrite it again. But I want to thank you for coming on. I want to remind all of our listeners that we come into this world, life where it's a little tough sometimes. We have to work on, what's robbing us of our joy. And that shell, as you start opening up that oyster inside, you can find your own inner pearl of greatness. And I hope today that you've got some great tips on how to reevaluate what you're doing and what's stealing your joy. So thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you guys, wasn't that so much fun? Emily was so amazing. Like, to talk about really what hit home for me throughout the whole conversation was like robbing your team of joy. And like, that goes to you, the team of you to start with. Like, what are you doing that you're robbing yourself of joy? What people pleasing, what modern things are you doing, these saboteurs and judges that are showing up for you that's keeping you from your joy, whether it's joy doing things for yourself, hanging with your family, growing your team, growing your business. What is that you're doing today that's robbing of your joy? And if it's something you want to work on, if it's something you want to become that Shiro of having your own journey of where you're showing up for yourself. And remember, Shiro is like, I want you to become stronger. I want you to become that happier person. It's not letting things steal your joy, so that you are empowered to show up for yourself in ways you're not doing, that you're empowered to be with the family and friends, like 100% there, not worrying about all the things that have to get done. And then that way, when you do show up, they've got all of you. They've got that radiant glow up that you are. And then you truly get to be that original person you are here to be, that person who's empowering others, that's helping others being yourself first, helping yourself grow, helping your team to become the team of an amazing product you're putting out there if you're a business owner, or even if it's the team of your home, become much happier and have more harmony and balance in your life. And if that's something you want to work on, I'm going to encourage you to book a call with me. You can easily maybe take a 30-minute session with me in our mini coaching session. And if you want to learn more about that, just go to wsliving.com/Shiro and grab a time with me today. I would love to spend 30 minutes with you and give you a little mini coaching session. So again, wsliving.com/Shiro, and let me help you find your inner Shiro of greatness. Have an amazing day.